We'll call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. We are returning from closed session. If our city attorney would please report on that.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The council is in closed session this evening, conference with labor negotiator, and also conference with legal counsel on anticipated litigation, and there's no action to report on either of those items.
Thank you very much. Would the city clerk please call the roll?
I will. Council members Powers?
Here.
Singleton?
Here.
Shelton?
Here.
Cruz?
Here.
Haynes?
Here. At this time, I would invite you all to join me in a moment of silent prayer. After that, we will do the flag salute, which will be led tonight by Boy Scout Troop 119.
Guard, attention. Scout salute. Please put your right hand over your heart if you are not in uniform. Color guard, forward march. Color guard, halt. Color guard, cross the colors. Color guard, post the flag of the great state of California. Please recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color guard, post the flag of the United States of America. Color guard, honor your colors. 2. Color guard, return to ranks. Audience, please be seated.
Would the city clerk please read the video statement?
This meeting of the Galt City Council is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the Government Affairs channel on the Comcast and SureWest cable systems. Tonight's meeting can be seen on Channel 14 and will also be webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv this Friday and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Tonight's meeting can also be seen via live video streaming on the city's website at www.ci.galt.ca.us. A DVD copy is also available for checkout from any library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address council should fill out a speaker identification form and give it to the clerk. please speak into the microphone when addressing council and state your name for the records. If everybody could also silence their cell phones, it's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask for agenda approval. Are there any additions or deletions from the agenda?
I think there was just one item on here that we noted on the agenda that was going to be carried forward to the next city council meeting, and that's item G3.
Okay.
That would be continued to the meeting of June 5th.
Okay, thank you. Any other additions or deletions? Okay. Then we will go on to presentations.
Okay, our first presentation is the Community of Character, and this month they're honoring honesty.
Good evening. Thank you, City Council, for allowing us to be here. Appreciate that. Mayor Payne, would you please join me?
Hi, ma'am.
Thank you.
At your beck and call.
I'm Sue Roberts, and I'm here to recognize three individuals tonight for their contributions to the community of Galt. The Character Coalition has recognized the 6 character traits throughout the year. All 6 were selected by the community of Galt via survey, and they include integrity, honesty, respect, pride in community, responsibility, and caring and compassion. And this particular timeline, we are recognizing individuals who have displayed the character trait of honesty. Excuse me, I need to stand in front of you. I'm trying to look at the audience here too. Honesty is characterized by telling the truth, no cheating or stealing, and being trustworthy. And I think the nominees that we have tonight are all outstanding examples of this character trait. And we would like to recognize first, and I'm going to have Barbara read this, Fatima Lopes. So would Fatima please come up, and if her nominee is here, which would be Evelyn Moore, would Evelyn please come up too?
Fatima Lopes is the epitome of honesty. She is someone a person can always trust. Fatima is always caring and has great feelings for other people. As a newcomer to the Galt community, it didn't take very long for Fatima to get acquainted with her neighbors, become friends, and be a part of the neighborhood watch. She is a dedicated member of the City Beautification Committee, which she is co-chair. She inspires others and actively participates in projects in making Galt a more charming place to live. Fatima is admired for her ways of expressing her honesty verbally, but her actions speak volumes. She works well with others. Anyone that is a friend of Fatima is grateful, for she is truly genuine. Fatima Lopes is a model of honesty and goodness for our community.
Well, no, you're going to do the third one too. I'm going to do the second. Okay. Our next nominee and awardee is Chad Smith. And would Chad please come up? And the person who nominated Chad is known to the Character Coalition, but did not want to be publicly recognized, so I can't tell you who it was that nominated him. But I can tell you this much, it's a good friend and somebody that knows Chad very well. And I never had Chad in school. I had his older brother Corey, and Chris was the oldest, and I had Chris too. But I wish I'd had Chad in school. But let me read you Chad's nomination. Chad Smith is a person who exemplifies trustworthiness, community leadership, and honesty. Someone who possesses honesty is first a person of moral character above all else. A person of honesty is always honest with their self first, and will always be honest with others as well. A person of honesty is constantly seeking the truth and is always truthful. A person of honesty is someone people seek out for answers to their problems, or a listening ear, or even confirmation of their own beliefs. Chad Smith is 26 years old and has lived in Galt his entire life and often confesses that he wants our community to have a purpose. He would like to help the community in that matter as he refines his own purpose in life. Chad runs a successful local landscape business, sits on the board for both the Lions Club and the New Men's Club, and has helped raise thousands of dollars for local charities. As a devout Catholic, he is an altar server and belongs to the Knights of Columbus. An old soul of sorts, he has his priorities straight, and if yours are not, he is quick to ask if that was such a good idea. Knowing Chad my whole life, I have learned, as well as others that have met him over the years, that Chad exemplifies honesty and respect. This is obvious when he pulls in his trailer for the day and his shop becomes a local hotspot for the good old boys of the community. They know they can drop anything that needs repair and he will see to it while offering good advice. People are attracted to Chad because of his strong moral base, and at the core of that is his honesty. It is obvious to me that people trust him and his leadership skills, whether it is the various local charity clubs he is involved in, business, church, or just good friendship. I once punched him in the face in 6th grade over something trivial. Did that give you a hint? And he is honest enough to remind me that it didn't hurt. Chad Smith exemplifies honesty and community leadership. He doesn't do it to be recognized. He honestly does it for others. That's really a nice song. Congratulations.
The next person that we're honoring tonight is Miguel Curiel. Miguel Curiel is a very honest... Oh, hey, so sorry. Come on down, Miguel. I'm going to start over. Miguel Curiel is a very honest and trustworthy person. He sets a very good example for his children and for everyone who knows him. People in the community look up to him because they know he is good and honest. He helps people in the community for free by making fundraising dinners to help them. He helps his church with cooking dinners for special events. He does these things without asking anything in return. At his work, people see that he is very trustworthy and honest. He works very hard and always does an honest day's work. People know that he is doing his best work, not because that's his job, but because he wants the best for the kids in the schools where he works. Miguel Curiel is a role model for everyone as a trustworthy and honest person. And he was nominated by Elizabeth Curiel and Mary Martinez. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
The next presentation that's on the agenda is for the Older Americans Month proclamation. Is Martha Reisman here? I guess not. So we got to read the proclamation? Do we have it?
Yeah, we can do it at the next meeting if we can get someone here. Either way.
Okay.
You want to read it though?
Well, I don't care. We can wait. What? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read it since they're declaring May as Older Americans Month. So I think we better read it at this point. Okay. Whereas the theme of the 2012 Older Americans Month is Never Too Old to Play, and whereas the City of Galt includes approximately 10% of the citizens aged 60 and older, and whereas the older adults in the City of Galt have an important role in sharing knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the history of our community through interactions with children, youth, and adults from other generations. And whereas the fruits of knowledge and experience can be effectively transferred from generation to generation through meaningful social interactions, and whereas their interactions with family, friends, and neighbors across generations enrich the lives of everyone involved. Whereas our community can provide opportunities to enrich citizens young and old by emphasizing the value of including elders in public and family life, creating opportunities for older Americans to interact with people of different generations, providing services, technologies, and support systems that allow older Americans to participate in social activities in the community. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Galt, California, does hereby proclaim May 2012 to be Older Americans Month. We urge every citizen to take time this month to engage with our older citizens through enjoyable social interactions such as sports, games, contests, and other forms of play. Our recognition and involvement of older Americans can enrich our entire community quality of life. In witness whereof we have hereunto set our hand and caused the seal of the City of Galt to be affixed this 17th day of May, 2011. That's what it says. Should be 2012. Okay. This is not going very well.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Hey, I'm willing. All right. Let's see these.
Here are 5 people on the set, Randy.
And these are the people that are ready to play. So we will now move along. Okay. Next on the agenda is public comment.
Okay, under Government Code, Section 54954.3, members of the public may address the council on non-agenda items. Speakers may address council on any agenda item during consideration of the item. Speakers shall restrict their comments to issues that are within the subject jurisdiction of the City Council and limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Please fill out a speaker sheet located on the table inside the entrances to the council chambers and forward the completed speaker sheet to the city clerk. Al Baldwin.
Good evening, Al Baldwin, a concerned citizen of Galt, and believe me, it's a community of character. I'm wearing a button just to prove part of it, but tonight I just want to say I was at a elementary school board meeting last night, and I don't know if you're aware of it, but they're having some challenges, especially in Galt, and it went on for quite a while and had quite a turnout. It was all different people, Latino, American, everything. It was just a lot of them. And they all spoke. A lot of them spoke. And the concern they had was, and I'm letting you know because it doesn't it does concern Galt, it's about the bus transportation. Our governor has taken, I don't know how you should say it, but he's turned his head on the transportation part of the school system and emphasizing more jobs for teachers. What some of the board members did was take a ride on the bus, the school bus, and went around with the kids in Galt, because what may happen, and it's very possible, that the school buses might be eliminated. Now, I know the city can't do a lot with the school district. It's sort of a separate thing, but you will be getting informed on some things about what they would like to have done, if you can do it at all, to protect the children. While they were on the buses, they watched the kids. Some of them were walking along the edge of the streets and through the neighborhoods, and some areas in Galt do not have sidewalks. So they were partially walking in the street, and some of them were crossing the street because they want to get the other side, basically. But the crosswalks might be a little bit better where you cross to go to different schools. They might be maybe either riding their bike or possibly even walking from the west side to the east side to the elementary schools. And what we heard, and I heard, was that the streets need to be a little bit upgraded so that we can have a safe walking for kids if this happens, which probably may happen unless you want to pay quite a bit more tax. And if there's any way the city can take a look at some of the areas where children walk, it would be really appreciated by not only me, but the school system. We've got to do something to help and protect our kids, because it's getting dangerous out there. The police department can only do so much, and we need all the protection we can get by fixing the sidewalks that are coming up so they don't trip, so they can cross the streets correctly, so they can remain safe and the parents don't have to worry. They're going to try and do their best to get them there, but they will need your help. Please listen to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Al. Okay. Would you read the consent calendar, please?
Okay, tonight we have 8 items on our consent calendar. The first one, approval of the City of Galt warrants. Number 2, regulations for candidates for the November 6, 2012 election. Number 3, award of bid for the 2012 Elm Avenue Overlay Project. Number 4, Older Americans Month proclamation. Number 5, approval of memorandum of understanding for new stormwater permits. Number 6, cost well and water treatment plant state revolving fund applications. Number 7, a resolution of the City of Galt as successor agency of the Redevelopment Agency adopting draft recognized obligation payment schedules. And number 8, a resolution of the City of Galt as successor agency of the Redevelopment Agency adopting an enforceable obligation payment schedule.
Is there any discussion on the consent calendar? If not, thank you. We have a motion to accept and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Powers? Aye. Councilmember Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. Motion is passed unanimously. Next item, please.
Next item, under scheduled matters, a public hearing on use of citizens' options for public safety, COPS funds award of contract for computer-aided dispatch and records management system.
Chief, would you like to report on that?
Yes, I would. This is before you tonight, Mayor and Council, is a proposal to award a contract to replace the current police CAD, computer-aided dispatch, and RMS, records management system. The current system is in its 9th year of use and relies on a aging AS400 hardware platform. The department's goal is to provide a more reliable, user-friendly, and robust system that will eliminate current redundant processes, consolidate workflow, and provide all staff with the ability to extract data that is not currently available. Within a few weeks of becoming the police chief, I learned obtaining information regarding everyday police activity was difficult and not as user-friendly as I had been accustomed. We began to discuss the issue with other police agencies within Sacramento County and soon learned that other law enforcement agencies were experiencing the same issue as Galt, and that the city of Citrus Heights was actively researching a CAD and RMS system, and were ready to put out a RFP, a request for proposal. The Citrus Heights Police Department prepared that RFP in such a way that they included other regional partners with like sizes to the city of Folsom and the city of Galt. When that RFP came back, it resulted in the selection of a system called RIMS, mobile computer system, and a reduction in cost for Galt if we were to join that of about $14,400 should all three agencies of Folsom, Citrus Heights, and Galt join in a data sharing model. The RIMS system will reduce our current maintenance costs by approximately $23,000 a year. We're currently budgeting close to $40,000. The cost for their system is $17,000 as far as maintenance fee, and that will eliminate the current redundant process, consolidate some of our workflow, and increase the ability of the data capture. Just one of the features of this new system is the fact if one of the people in the audience today dials 911, as soon as the dispatcher picks up the phone, the map will zoom in and show him exactly where the call is coming from, what house, draw a circle around it, and it has the ability to, in fact, locate the police units that are on the street and give us an indication of who's closest to that call for response. The financial impact of the city will be $220,000, which we propose to take out of 7 different line items which are contained within the current 2011-2012 approved budget, and $50,000 from the next year's COPS Supplemental Law Enforcement Services Fund, which as of today in the legislative update stated that in fact that money is scheduled for us unless there's a change in the budget. Those funds include traffic safety, vehicle theft, COPS, Measure R, capital and overtime salary savings. This whole project was discussed with the Measure R Oversight Committee at our last meeting, and they were in agreement. Staff recommends that the adoption of the resolution authorizing the purchase of the CAD and RM session to approve the allocation of COPS funding and approval of budget changes, and that's where the public meeting is because we want to take money that I had allocated for vehicles for the police department and switch it over, 40,000 of that money, to this current project. That ends my presentation, and members of the police staff are here along with members of the IT staff to in fact answer any questions council might have.
Okay. As you mentioned, this item requires a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. If there's any questions or discussion from the public, now would be the time to come forward.
Al Baldwin again. Just wanted to make sure, did I hear it right? You're going to use Measure R funds?
That is correct.
And that's going to be okay, huh?
Yes, it is. We are scheduled to be on July 1 at our max requirements regarding the officers involved, and the only money that's coming from Measure R would be roughly 16%, which would cover the Measure R officers and the 2 Measure R dispatchers that will be in fact using that system.
So you won't need any more officers?
No.
July 1st.
July 1st. Currently, we have 1 officer that's signed to the drug and gang task force in Sacramento County. He's in the southern area. There was an article in the local paper regarding that issue, and he will be moved to be a Measure R officer, which will be, in fact, at that time, the person that we need in a gang narcotics position. We have the SRO, which is currently in place, and we are in the process of the second Measure R dispatcher. We have 1 already on staff, and the other one is being recruited currently. And we have 1 more person that we have to hire as far as Measure R that will give us 7. And we're also in the process of hiring another officer to replace the current one that's in the gang task force come July 1.
Well, this is what I brought up a while back about once you reach your quota on Measure R, this is what's going to happen. You're going to start having extra money, and what are you going to use it for? I was just wondering maybe if you could make it, have a meeting and discuss where the extra money will go in the future. I know you're waiting for recommendations from the police department, but that'll happen all of a sudden. You won't know maybe a week before. So I would just suggest looking into it a little bit and making sure that everything is above board and everything, all the monies you're getting over and above what you need is correct. When Measure R was put out, it was for officers and safety, and it's great that it's being used right now and not cutting in at all to the general fund in any way whatsoever. At least that's what we were trying to get across and making sure it was doing. And I can see this thing supplementing the general fund before long, because something needs to be done. You used to get it out of the general fund or cops or whatever, and now you're using the Measure R. Maybe that's good. That may be good. I'm just suggesting that please look into it and just make sure the money's being done and spent correctly and the way it should be done. No reference on you. I just want to double check. Your oversight committee is supposed to be doing this, but I have not heard anybody say it's been presented to the oversight committee. They've questioned it, they've looked at it, or anything. Maybe he said it tonight and I missed it, but that's what they're there for, to make sure. But I would suggest your help in trying to guide them a little bit. Thank you.
One of the things that we're doing, sir, is we're actually in the process of coming up with an expenditure plan for future Measure R funds, so that we have some kind of roadmap for council to follow. So in fact, everybody knows. And it was presented to the Measure R committee, and one of the committee members is in the audience tonight.
Any other questions from the audience? If not, I will close the public hearing, and then I will open it to the council for questions or comments. Councilman Cruz?
How long is the system going to be in operation? In other words, we've actually gone, in my tenure with the city, we've gone through 3 different RMS systems. Each one supposedly better than the next. Okay, so is this the last time we're going to spend a large sum of money like this? We're going to get updates for it constantly?
I believe that this system is probably one of the better ones out there, and I do know that they yearly meet and take input from the hundreds of departments across the United States that in fact use their system, and they do updates from there. To say that this is a system that you will have forever, I can't make that claim. Technology, in fact, changes so quickly from the iPhone I have to the iPad and everything else. These are already obsolete because there's 2 models past what I already have. So it's very possible that some of the things that are within other programs at a later date could in fact replace the current system. But right now it is the best and is the most cost effective. I know that an individual in another county that's in fact getting ready to go online with a new system, and they're looking upwards of about $2 million. We're talking $220,000. We did a lot of research on this. All 3 agencies, we pooled our resources. We discussed what the product would and would not do, and we believe that this is superior to systems that are in the $1 million range.
You mentioned that you can tell where the officers are going to be in a specific part of town using the system.
Yes.
So have we also included funds to ensure that the GPS tracking is going to be available for the vehicles, or is that additional?
That module is in their mapping program, and we have the quote within the mapping program, so that should be in there, yes.
The hardware portion of it as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I have a question.
Okay.
Chief, do you know if this will take care of, like, the CADs, not only law enforcement, but the fire service we go through, where they're being dropped continually? And I know part of that is because of an older system. So we do the increase. I don't know if you or the lieutenant could answer that. Is that going to hopefully narrow that down so the system is not dropping off?
Lieutenant Updegrove, do you have?
Sorry, Chief. I just thought
comment?
maybe you or staff could answer that.
Well,
And it's not just law enforcement, and it's not just here. It happens all over.
Correct.
This system doesn't specifically interface with the fire system.
Oh, no, I understand. I was just giving that example.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I can't. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the problem that the fire services has with their system dropping calls.
Mhm.
So I couldn't answer if this system would solve that.
Let me rephrase it.
Okay.
Okay. In the community here,
Mhm.
I know there are times when I believe that we're having to reboot the system on the units. Is this going to take care of that issue in the individual units?
Oh, I see. What you
Maybe I
rebooting,
stated it incorrectly.
rebooting the mobile systems,
Mhm.
the patrol cars. Sometimes we do have to reboot them. I don't know if this will completely eliminate that problem all the time,
Mhm.
but it should minimize. Most of the time we have to reboot it because we lose the connection, the wireless connection between the vehicle and the base at back of the police department. So it's just like any other wireless system. If we run AT&T, and if you lose the signal, sometimes you do have to reboot. It's supposed to auto reboot. It doesn't always do that. It's like your phone. Sometimes you do have to reboot.
We have our IT expert here. Matt, do you want to comment on that?
I'd appreciate it.
Not that Lieutenant Updegrove is not an expert.
I'm just going to back Jim up on that. It's exactly what he said. AT&T is our current provider, which the cars talk back to the police department through AT&T cell cards or air cards. And there are certain zones throughout the city, if you're driving around, where you just drop out. If you notice on your cell phones, if you happen to have AT&T, there's spots in the city where you just don't get signal, or you get very minimal signal. Former Councilman Haynes had AT&T, an AT&T air card for a laptop, the council laptop that he used, and we actually had to buy an external antenna, which was about 4 feet tall, and he had it mounted on the side of his house to be able to get signal when he was at his house, and he would take it with him, traveling, because of various spotty signals. Verizon has a better signal coverage in the city, but basically AT&T is our current provider, and this won't solve those drops. The system itself, when the connection is there, will work well.
Thank you.
All right.
One last
You
question.
took care of about 50% of my issue, okay? But it's another agency that we have contract with, okay?
One
Councilman
last
Cruz?
question. With your permission, Chief. Record Supervisor Gross, are you satisfied with the systems that you're going to be handling it? That's all I need to know. Thank you.
I just want to add a little comment, and I just think that it is important that we have the tools that our officers need to do their jobs.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Yes, if I may.
Councilman Singleton?
Chief, you had mentioned when they call 911 that the new system will zero in on the house that it's coming from. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What if they're calling from a cell phone? Is that going to go to Highway Patrol first and be routed to our station? How's that going to work?
I believe that they're one of the carriers that we have within the system. It should work for location, but I'm not positive, and what I'll have to do is ask that question and get back to you regarding the answer, because I'm not sure. Unless one of either Lieutenant or Matt can in fact answer that.
Well, we're working right now on getting all the carriers on board, so when you do call via cellular, that it does not go to Highway Patrol. It'll come directly into our PSAP. It will not pinpoint the exact location, although technology is getting better at doing that. But it will get you close to the towers, and we've been pretty successful in being able to ping the phones back
That's if we can ping them, right?
locate them. Yeah.
One more thing. Can you just one more time? I know you've already said it. What was the savings on the maintenance as opposed to what we have now?
Currently, we budget $40,000 for the maintenance on the old system. With a new system, after the first year, our maintenance cost will be $17,000. So we'll reduce it by, what, $23,000?
Right. And that's per year?
That's per year.
So, like you said, 23,000. Sounds like pretty good savings for.
For a more up-to-date system. The platform that they're using, the AS400, I actually got rid of in another city probably somewhere in the area of 15 years ago.
Have you used this? I'm sorry.
So the S400 has been around a long time and it's a good system, but it's pretty old technology and it's also known as far as being an energy waste also.
Yeah, oh, that's a good point. You've used this system before?
The RIMS?
Yeah.
No, I have not, but there are approximately 4 to 5 officers within a department that came from other departments that used it. I have a brother that works for Redwood City. He's been using the system for some time, and I actually contacted him to see what he thought of it.
Okay.
And he sung its praises. The lady from Citrus Heights, who in fact wrote the RFP, brought that same system into the city of Davis and speaks very highly of it. My wife, who's in communications for the city of Contra Costa, if they weren't in current negotiations for their current system, she told me that she would seriously look at it because she actually went to one of the demonstrations on it. So I feel very confident that it'll do everything we ask and more.
Thank you, Chief. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Then I would ask you to read the recommended action. Thank you, Lieutenant and Matt.
Okay, we have 6 items under the recommendation. You opened the public hearing, we took testimony, closed the public hearing. Did you close the public hearing? I did. Next is to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract for software services with Sunridge Systems for the purchase of a computer-aided dispatch and records management system with the ability to extend the maintenance contract annually with 1-year extension. The next item, approve the reallocation of COPS funding and the award of contract for the purchase of a new CAD RMS system. And the next item, approve the budget change form.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Powers? Aye. Councilmember Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Next item.
The next item is the update on the strategic plan.
And this is the time when we periodically update the public on some of the goals that we've set for ourselves as a city council. And we will do that in just a minute.
So just a minute, and I'll turn the lights.
Okay.
I don't want to get through with that.
These are our 3-year goals, and we report our progress monthly. What? Okay. Okay. And the audience can follow me along as I report on these. The first one is enhanced economic development. Item number 1 was to compare completion of environmental and infrastructure studies to prepare the Simmerhorn commercial property for development. And is that the same one? Mm-hmm. Okay, just looks a little different from this perspective. And the progress we've made is completed the environmental work as of February 21st. Planning and public works staff continues to provide support work to the development team that is purchasing the property as they do their due diligence work on the site. City Manager, do you have anything to add to that? That Simmerhorn property?
I'm confused because this doesn't match what's in the packet.
I know, that's,
So
I'm confused too.
No, but the Simmerhorn project
And
at the last...
my idea was that you would straighten this out.
Do my best. Simmerhorn project, we had this at the last council meeting, and we got all the environmental studies done, the infrastructure studies done, so I think we're in a good position to move that project forward on that property. I talked to there's a development company right now that's under contract to purchase the site. They're doing their due diligence, and they're hoping to close within the next month. So they're just hopefully moving forward and be able to see some progress on that site in the next couple of years as the interchange is completed. It really opens up opportunities for that site.
Well, I'd say that's a good progress then. I like your progress better. Okay, next item under enhanced economic development is item number 5. Let me go to that. Okay.
Enhanced
Economic.
economic development.
The person responsible for this is our principal planner, and I'm going to let you take this one.
Thanks. Yeah, the one on screen is an older version. The one in your packets is the correct version. We have been working with Lodi Memorial to trying to get them to bring basic radiological services to their Galt Medical Clinic. We provided them with a lot of the information that the Buxton Company gave us on insurance providers and physician specialties. In addition to starting basic radiological services at the medical clinic as of July 1, they have also reviewed the information and decided that they're also going to start meeting some unmet needs in the physician specialty areas. So they're going to start bringing in, adding specialists at least 1 day a week for cardiovascular, general surgery, internal medicine, neurology, orthopedic surgery, pediatrics, and urology. But they do not have a schedule yet for those physician specialties. So they've definitely committed to the radiological starting July 1, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 here at the Galt Clinic.
That's the existing clinic that they will be located at?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will now go to the next one, improve financial stability and maintenance of reserves. Item number 4, our special projects manager, Armando Solis. Would you please report on that?
I will. Staff is literally working on a staff report currently to bring to council on June 5th. I've met with members of CSD, the Planning and Building Department, and Department of Health to iron out our issues in regards to the concession stand. We believe we have everything figured out. Just putting together the staff report now to bring back to you on June 5th.
Okay, thank you. Next, engage the community and provide services and facilities responsive to community needs. And we'll be looking at item number 3 in our packet. Hopefully it matches. Okay. Would you like to talk about that one also? This item number 3, the community sign.
Smud Park.
The community sign at Smud Park has been installed. We are waiting to have our logos put on the very top of it, but that should be done this week. We're speaking to a company that installed, or we ordered it from, so it will be installed this week. We already have our Shop Local Tuesday Night Market advertisement on there, and we are still waiting for the completion of the overpass on C Street to install the second one.
Okay. I think we're all waiting for the completion of the overpass.
They're nice signs.
Yeah.
And very readable.
Okay. Thank you. Item number 4, promote the new South County Transit Link bus program and new commuter service. I think I'll just take that one. Do you mind? We are very proud of our commuter bus with its Wi-Fi and its reclining seats. And the last report I had, we had last week, for the week, 96 passengers. We have plans to put it on display in downtown Sacramento at an event that they will be conducting, so the people that work downtown can see that this bus is available. And we have our ribbon cutting coming up tomorrow. I'm going to actually be taking a ride on that bus and coming back. We'll be coming back to the City Hall at about 5:30 for a ribbon cutting. Supervisor Don Natoli has been invited to be there, and everyone in the audience and everyone out there is also invited to be there. I think our city clerk is going to provide us with refreshments, so it should be an eventful evening. Okay, next item is item number 5, and I would ask Councilman Randy Shelton to please report on that.
Oh, okay, thank you. This is through the Public Safety Advisory Committee that we have. I've mentioned it several times, and it's kind of an update and a reminder. It is up there. That one is correct. Okay. I just want to make sure that the public is aware that this is your opportunity, even the youth, to come and ask about different things and concerns you would have on, I think Al Baldwin, you brought up about sidewalk safety, shrubs, tripping hazards. I get complaints all the time and I see stuff. I don't have a problem if people are friendly of going and knocking on the door, and I'm not asking you to do that. But if you do see something, if you would, go through channels and make sure it gets to code enforcement, I would appreciate it. We are doing did we get a press release for the paper or not? Okay, good. Staff?
Paper
Okay.
for tomorrow.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate staff doing that. And I don't know, Liz, do you think we could get something on the website?
Yes.
I'll talk to you afterwards, right, and I'll meet with you. I think everything's going very well. It's also I'm hoping that all the safety committee members will be there, and it'd be an opportunity for you to know who those individuals are, because without those volunteers, we wouldn't be doing all these things. And Mike, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add?
No, you did very well.
Okay. Set me up, thank you.
When does that committee meet, and is it open to the public?
I'm sorry, it is May the 21st. It'll be Monday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And it will be at the police department, unless we've changed it.
Okay. And again, it's an invitation to the public. This is where you should go if you have concerns about, maybe you think we need a stop sign or anything having to do with traffic. This is your opportunity to discuss it at length.
Right. Right. We will have a representative from the local fire department, your concerns about weeds and, what their ordinances are. So that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Okay, next item, item number 6. Identify the needs and present recommendations to the City Council for action regarding a facilities to house parks and recreation programs, etc. Armando, do you or Richard want to update us on that?
I will. We were planning on taking this to our Parks and Rec Commission meeting, but we did not meet. We did not have a quorum. So if we could please put this on hold until our next commission meeting, after our next commission meeting.
Okay. Then we'll expect to hear from you next month.
Yes.
On that. Thank you very much. Okay. Are we ready to move on to the next item? Thank you all for your reports.
Okay, the next item is approval of using discretionary funds. That's for Councilmember Shelton.
Thank you. I would ask that council please approve the use of my full discretionary funds of $1,000. I know that you heard me talk about in the past for a couple of events that we're doing. One, as I just spoke about, the Public Safety Forum, and to provide some refreshments for members of the public that would show up. But one of the things that's very important to me is we've talked about, and we have kind of a subcommittee here on retention and recruitment of our volunteers, commissioners and committee members. So I really would like for your approval to the city to host its first luncheon for those individuals. And I'm hoping in the future that maybe we could do this every 2 years. It would be a nice little luncheon. Mm-hmm. Those individuals that can make it can be there. It also goes with part of our strategic plan we had talked about with the interaction of I'm hoping that most of the council member or all of you can be there and meet those individuals. We talk to them on the phone, we see them time to time, and I think this is going to really bridge that, and I'm hoping that they will continue to volunteer. And the members of the public would say, hey, you know what, this is kind of nice because at least I'm being recognized. Because we have members that have been, the last 2 or 3 months to been on a committee volunteering their times for, 8 or 9 years. And other than just us individuals that ask them to be on it, how many times have they been recognized? So I think it's an opportunity.
Good idea.
Great idea.
Comments from other council members? I heard from.
Councilman Sheldon, how much do you say you were gonna get?
Pardon me?
How much were you asking for?
I was asking for all of my funds to be used for the two. I do have a date that was just handed, for June the 21st. I know Liz has been working on that,
right,
so.
yeah.
And a lot more information to come.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mike, I cut you off.
No, that was good. I just wanted to say that, if okay with council, I'd like to volunteer some of my, discretionary funds if it is needed for this luncheon, if he uses all of his, or.
Okay.
That's, of course, with council approval.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right now, we're going to talk about Councilman Shelton's money. So is there a consensus? Do we need to vote on this? Okay. Then we would need a motion to that effect. Go ahead.
Move to approve Councilmember Shelton's funding to the two organizations he needs them to go to.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Powers?
Aye.
Councilmember Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. Motion passed unanimously, and thank you, Councilman Shelton, for that suggestion. I think we all agree it's a very good idea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item, we are continuing the City Attorney's Office report. We're continuing to the next meeting. So,
So the next item, Public Works Department. Authorize the city manager to execute a contract amendment number 4 to the agreement with Calendar Associates for engineering services for C Street, Central Galt, Complete Streets, and 4th Street parking lot and open space improvements in the amount of $233,028 and approved project contingency of $23,300.
Thank you. Madam Member, members of the council, just a little over a year and a half ago, the city entered into a contract with Calendar and Associates to do design work on these two projects that the city clerk has mentioned. They started off with a conceptual plan process. So at that time, when they entered into the contract, what the actual project was going to be was a little bit on the nebulous side. They refined it through that conceptual plan process. They've done the surveying work. They've done some preliminary design work. And in that intervening time, the city received a grant from SACOG for about $2 million to take the C Street portion of that project and call it the Complete Streets project, where we're going to be doing enhancements to the pedestrian zone, which is really what the element of Complete Streets is all about, to make life better for pedestrians who share that street with vehicles and, of course, bicycles as well. And with that, that is also federally funded, so there's federal requirements get tacked onto that. And we continue negotiations with the railroad over the lease property, the potential lease of the railroad property for open space improvements and a parking lot. As these have all kind of come together, we've elected to move forward with the design of the C Street portion and the parking lot portion as separate projects. And in all of that, as we refine the scope of work and so forth, we do need additional funds for Calendar to do a set of plans and specs for each of those projects, which is essentially what we're asking you for tonight, is to approve that additional amount of money. And also, we note this, much of the additional, well, all the additional money is coming out of the RDA fund, so we'll need to go to the oversight committee and go through all that process to get that approved. So even if you approve it tonight, there still is a chance that we have to deal with that issue as well. So if you have any questions on the project, we have Bill Forrest here, who's been really managing that project on behalf of the city. We'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Council? Questions? Comments? Would you read then the recommended action, please?
This section is adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute amendment number 4 to the agreement for consulting services with Calendar Associates in the amount of $233,028 for the C Street Central Galt Complete Streets and 4th Street parking lot and open space improvements, and authorizing a contingency of $23,300 for this amendment.
Okay,
Move to accept.
we have a motion to accept. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Great.
Couple of seconds. Roll call vote, please.
I don't know who this is. Vice Mayor Powers? Aye. Councilmember Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Next item, please.
Next item, wastewater collection, water distribution, and storm drainage systems master plan. Oh, there is no pass. Just hit OK.
Foiled again. Well, I'll go ahead and get started while Bill's putting the presentation up. Several years ago, the city entered into a contract with Corolla Engineers to update, well, actually to prepare master plans for the water distribution system, the sewer collection system, and the storm drain system. The work was actually completed in 2010. The reports were brought to the council in 2010, I think in February it was, and then there were a number of comments about the preliminary work, and they completed the reports in May. In the intervening time, obviously since development hasn't been moving along at a rapid pace, this was not a top priority, and we worked on getting the environmental work done with the planning department, and so we're now done with all that and wanted to get that back in front of the council for approval tonight. So, given the time frame that's elapsed since the council saw it last, I was going to kind of run through some of the high points of the master plans, and then really talk more about the fee program implications, because this is kind of outline of the presentation, and as you can see on the objectives, number 3 was to establish preliminary cost estimates as a basis for updating our fee programs. This is an important part of the development process, to identify to the development community, what your fees pay for. I know the council is always concerned about, are our fees too high? But really the question the developers kind of want to know is, well, what do I get for paying those fees? So I'll talk about that quite a bit at the end of the presentation. I just wanted to highlight the fact that the wastewater treatment plant is not included in this. That work was being done on a separate track and actually was behind. We just started that earlier in 2012. So we'll have a master plan for wastewater treatment sometime late in the year, and we are suggesting that, again, given the low pace of development, that we could really do all the fee studies at once sometime in the coming year. So the key thing about doing any kind of a master plan is to start with a general plan, which you recently adopted. And I wanted to point out one thing about the general plan, and that is that you see this light green area surrounding the city on the west side and on the north. That is what's called a rural ranchette in the general plan, or something like that, I guess. And one of the key assumptions in the master plans is that those areas would probably not be served by city utilities. They would be on large lots with their own wells and septic systems. The general approach on doing a master plan is to come up with design criteria, and this is an area that the city really, I think, needed, and to look at the adequacy of the existing system, talk about evaluating if it's in good shape now in terms of having additional capacity, and we've kind of highlighted the word deficiencies because that's a key part of fee programs, and I'll talk more about that in a minute also. But deficiencies can also mean a number of different things in terms of deficient as to design criteria, and I'll talk about that as well in a minute. And then come up with what you need for future development, and then of course the cost. Again, so deficiencies. These are things that are wrong with the system now that you would probably fix if you had no development. Anyway, you fix them anyway if you had no development. That's probably a simple way of looking at it. That's typically funded through user rates. you may get grants or so forth to do them as well. In the future, as we use in this presentation, is what's there out needed to serve new development. And that's typically developer funded, either through fees, or you may get grants for that kind of work as well. So jumping into the utilities, this is a screenshot of the wastewater system, and I'm going to jump ahead to some of my notes here so I don't forget things. One of the things I understand is the city really had no citywide master plan for the collection system prior to this one, so it is a good thing that you have one now. And just, you know, the color coding on these just has to do with the sizes. The bigger pipes are in red, the blue ones, and then the yellow ones are kind of the smaller local pipes. And we kind of describe again the work that was done, some flow modeling and development of design criteria, as I mentioned earlier, computer model. All of these use computer models now. Look at the pipe capacities and so forth. Conclusions on this were that there are a few areas that need some work, and I'm going to go ahead and just jump ahead to the map. I do want to point out, though, that the live oak lift station is one of the big deficiencies that was pointed out, and we've just recently awarded a contract to fix that, so we can scratch that off the list already. Sometimes you want to put things on a list you know you've done, so you have the pleasure of scratching them off. You know. But again, this was done in 2009 and 10, so at that time it wasn't that far along. And so I'm going to go to the map, and I've tried to make these two maps sort of the same scale. This is the existing, generally the existing city, and as you can see with the expansion of the general plan, there's quite a bit of additional land to be served. This cross-hatched portion is the rural ranchette that I mentioned earlier that would not be served. Again, I wanted to kind of point that out. One point on that, though, the study did take a quick look at, well, what if we did wind up having to provide wastewater service to those rural areas? Septic systems sometimes can be problematic in rural residential. Maybe you can build one or two systems on a small lot, but eventually you run out of space to do one. And so they ran some quick calculations, and the flows are actually relatively small given the area because of the very, very low density. And I would note that they didn't discuss it in the report, but there are a lot of new types of collection systems that don't rely on gravity sewers that are relatively low cost to serve rural areas. And so that may be a potential in the future, but they did note that basically the overall flow and its impact on the treatment plant would be pretty minimal. So you might want to keep that in mind. So this is the actual plan that they came up with. Again, the heavy lines, this is the Live Oak project we just awarded. They do show a lot of increased sewers coming in to serve this development on the east. And in terms of existing problems, they pointed out some work on Elm Street that may be needed at Trudy and Oberlin Way in this area, and then of course in the downtown area. Downtowns are always a problem. They're the oldest parts of the city. They weren't designed to standards today. And that's actually what I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit in terms of just overall policy. It's typical for a master plan to evaluate the existing utilities with the same kind of criteria they would look at new utilities, new improvements. I think that's overly conservative. It's like saying you need to remodel your house every time the building code changes. You know, you don't really need to do that. And unless there's really, really a problem occurring that you can document in terms of overflows or flooding in the streets or whatever it is for that type of utility, you can look at those a little harder, and maybe you can decide to put those off. Maybe there's going to be some upgrade of where you have land use changes that might be occurring that could trigger then the need to approve that. But if it's working okay now, just because the calculations say it's deficient isn't necessarily a reason to jump in there and do it. I wanted to point out that I'm going to talk more about the cost in a minute, but for the sewer, all the colored lines on there total to $56 million. $29 million worth of existing rehabilitation. Now the majority, well, not the majority, but a large part of that is the Live Oak project, which we've already funded. And of that $29 million, 15 is what they recommend in terms of annual rehabilitation replacement of sewers. which is another thing that I wanted to point out, that just because a sewer or any utility is old doesn't necessarily mean you have to run out and replace it. Again, in the absence of a problem, just because it's reaching the end of what you might think of its useful life, which actually for underground utilities is really close to 100 years, and I don't think we have anything anywhere near that old in Galt. My understanding is most of the utilities were installed sometime in the last 50, 60 years, at least the older ones. So I think that's a pretty conservative number as well. That doesn't mean you don't have to spend money annually on fixing things, but to be worried about putting in some kind of like an actuarial study of how many things you ought to be replacing in any given year isn't necessarily appropriate. And then, of course, $27 million worth of work that's identified as for new users. On the drainage system, again, this is the existing system. Again, computer model, the various technical work. I'm not going to go into detail on that, but suffice to say that again, fairly good system. I certainly have not heard of much in the way of deficiencies with street flooding. Typically, if there's an area that routinely floods, you've probably already heard about it and have already told someone like me or one of the other engineering staff, and it's probably been dealt with. So again, because of the calculations show these don't meet the same standards as new development ought to have, isn't necessarily a reason to go out, jump out there and do it. I do want to point out a couple things about the concepts. They're looking in the future area using detention basins to store peak flows. And according to the general plan, there's a policy about joint use of detention facilities. And I'll talk more about that. Oh, actually, I did right here. One concern I have on the master plan is they really didn't include cost to do that. So if you really think that you're going to have a detention basin double as a soccer field or whatever in terms of recreation field, the costs to do that aren't fully in these cost estimates. I think that's something we ought to look at before we do a fee update. I know in the previous city I worked in, the standard for a detention basin was a turfed basin. So the notion of using it for soccer, for example, it didn't take much to go out there and put a set of goalposts up and off you go. If you want baseball and other more elaborate facilities in them, obviously it costs a little more to do that. But so you either need to work on modifying what your standard for a basin would be and get those costs included in the fee program, or modify your parks program to say we want to have money to put facilities in those basins. And it's more than just the standards in terms of what facilities. It's the how they're configured and the amount of high ground you need to have so you can have a parking lot and restrooms and things like that. So that needs to be something to think about. Again, map of the storm drain system. A lot of new work, obviously, on the east side, and of course in the new area with the Twin Cities Road. Most of the cost is in future improvements for new development. Again, same argument about existing. It shows $9 million worth of projects in the existing part of the community, but of that, $4 million is just in some kind of a rehab program, which again, as I said earlier, is the same thing for sewers that you may not need to do on a regular schedule at this point, given the age of the system. Water system, again, similar thing, computer model, looking at the historic water use. They did some work on demand. They looked at the well and storage and pipe capacities, and I'll talk more about that in a minute as well. Again, not surprising deficiencies, again, according to the standards in the downtown area, and of course we knew that we need to replace wells. We've already lost a few wells in the last several years, and we've already started on the cost wells that you already approved as recently as in addition to that. Future supply, they're recommending we use centralized treatment where you have two to four wells feeding into one centralized treatment plant. We already do that. That's no big surprise. One thing that I think was a good thing that came out of the report, though, was that we looked at putting more generators at the well sites. you think about storage, we have this huge underground basin that stores water for us. And so to pay to pump it up and put it at the ground level, you know, if you can provide standby power on your well sites and have enough wells to have an extra well or two, so if you have one well go down, you can rely on another well. That's all the storage you need. You don't need fairly expensive to build and expensive to maintain tanks at the ground, because even those tanks need to have a booster pump station to pump water out into the system. So again, power outage, you got to have a generator for those booster pumps. So just put the generator on the well and you're in the same situation. So that was a very good thing. As I mentioned, some of the staff before, Galt is storage rich and well poor in terms of the numbers. And proposed water improvements, again, work in the downtown area, replacing wells, backup supply, and getting into some pretty big numbers, $148 million total. Again, $25 million for the existing areas. 11 of that was in this annual rehab that I mentioned earlier, so kind of the same thing. We do have money in the budget to do some of that kind of work. Probably not as much as they'd like to see, but again, it gets back to that, you know, really, you know, just because it's old doesn't mean it needs to be replaced. I turned all this off, I'm sorry. Okay, so the fee program. Let me talk a bit about fee programs and just in general and about what you might do with this. First of all, there's a couple of required things in a fee program. You can't be fixing existing deficiencies in the fee program, with a few exceptions. And I've kind of outlined an example here that if you're putting in a new pipe, a new storm drain pipe, let's say it's a 84-inch pipe going down the middle of a road, you're going to rebuild that road. And even if that road was in poor shape, when you're done, you're going to have a new road. That's an incidental thing that comes that you can include in the cost of that storm drain pipe. There's a few other examples, that fall into that kind of a category. And so typically when a development comes in, they plan on building everything within their project. Whether it's a subdivision, a big commercial project, it's in the boundaries of their property, they get to build that at their cost. They get to do their frontage improvements. Even though it's an existing road, they front that road, they improve that road. And they pay their impact fees. This gets back to, okay, now what do I get for those fees? Well, many times there's an off-site improvement. And again, I'm talking about something that's outside the limits of that project or their frontage, where they need to extend a pipe to connect to the existing system, or they need to oversize a pipe that's in their neighbor's property or going through an existing street because now they've added demand to that facility. And if all those improvements are in your fee program, then they would typically get a fee credit for the fact that they've built that, or the city might build it as a separate project. And that's kind of the typical thing you have going right now. But you can have some problems with that. If the cost of those off-site improvements exceed what your fees are bringing in for that particular project, you got to dip into your funds to pay the rest. If you don't have the funds, now you got a problem. And often what cities would do is then, okay, they tell the developer, if you want to build, you got to build this thing, and we'll enter into some kind of a fee payment agreement to reimburse you in the future, depending on if, and but. And there's issues with how you do that. Do you pledge the entire city fee revenue? Do you pledge just fees from a certain area? It can get fairly complicated. And if the off-site work is not in the fee program, the developer still has to build it, and he can be stuck with the cost, and you can wind up with a situation where some other property later on gets to tie into that, and gee, it's already there, and it's not part of the fee program, so it just happens to be there. So, oops, sorry. So what I'm suggesting is that you consider some alternatives when you go forward with the fee program, and again, I've kind of outlined them here in this simple slide. Presently, you've got fee program that covers master plan improvements, and again, I'm basing this on the traffic plan that was approved a couple of years ago, and assuming you would do the same for the utilities. And then you have the developer doing what's in their project. The alternate concept would be to do the same on the developer side within the project, but you take your fee program and break it out into a couple of categories where you have the major improvements, and I'll talk about that in a minute as well, what those might be, and put those in the fee program and strengthen what you have in the way of an area of benefit ordinance. You do have an ordinance that kind of talks about this. It's bare bones, refers to state law. It really ought to be strengthened, in my opinion, should be redone to include this situation where a developer builds something that serves somebody else's property and they can get reimbursed from that property when it develops. It takes away that issue of having a separate fee payment agreement with the city where you're pledging fees from other properties, and it makes it more direct. Give you an idea of kind of how this might impact what you would have in the fee program. I've taken all those figures I gave you earlier and broken them down. So this is the total that was shown on the earlier slides for wastewater, storm drainage, and water of what was in the future category, basically all those colored items that are on the map for future development. And broke out what, I just used the phrase, major facilities, pump stations and force mains for wastewater, the storm drain basins and pump stations and force mains for storm drainage, and wells and treatment and storage and generators on the water system, and added up all those costs. And then what's left basically is pipes. So if you were to look at major facilities being just these things, you could see the cost that would be in the fee program would be, roughly half of what you have already, have potentially in the fee program. Now, I don't think this is necessarily a great split, but in the short time, to put this together, I maybe wanted to illustrate the concept. As I mentioned in the footnote here, you could use other facilities. You could look at the storm drain facilities map with a technical eye, of course, and say, okay, well, this major trunk line really is serving the entire area, and so we'll put that as part of the major facilities. But all of those smaller pipes that come off of that are right now shown in the master plan would be in that area of benefit category where we're not going to put it in the fee program. And if the developer happens to have a parcel that includes all of that, he just builds it as part of his project. If it happens to cross somebody else's property or go down a road in front of somebody else's property or is sized to handle the guy behind him, you do this area of benefit process. And what that process is, you identify, first of all, you require the developer to do the work, and then they come back and say, okay, we figure this is really going to serve this larger area, and they define the area. There's a public hearing process, a notice to all the property owners that at some point when you develop, you need to chip in your fair share of this pipe. And when they develop, that's what they do. And that's a fairly standard procedure in a lot of places. But you could have other big-ticket items in that major category, transmission pipelines, things like a freeway crossing of a utility. That's very expensive, and it's going to, again, serve the larger area, not just that one, project on either side. So those could be in there as well. And so that's kind of the concept that I wanted to toss out, just to keep in the back of your mind, because I won't be here when you do it. But I did want to share that with you. Environmental review. The planning staff, and I have to admit, I thought they did it in-house, but they did handle that for us, and they used Rainey Consultants. Both planning staff and the Cindy from Rainey are here in the back. Cindy and I actually worked together in Lodi a long time ago. Didn't know she was involved in this. Noticed earlier in March and had a few comments, mostly from the Air District, and they provided an errata sheet and developed a mitigation and monitoring program, so it's all in your packet. We've actually talked about taking a lot of those requirements and just putting them into our specifications on projects so we don't miss them in the future. And then, so you can approve that if you wish to tonight. So as far as going forward, we're looking at asking you to approve the resolution and then continue the discussion on the fee program at some other point when we come back on the fees. And of course, ask if you have any questions or have some discussion.
Any discussion, questions?
No, very informative.
I was noticing under the mitigation that the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality had quite a bit of requirements Do you have a comment on that? How much it's adding to the cost? For example, one in here, prior to approval of final design level plans for each individual infrastructure improvement project, the city shall provide a plan to the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Board for review and approval. The plan shall show that the heavy-duty 50 horsepower off-road vehicles to be used during construction, including, it goes on and on about the air quality mitigation.
These are,
and there is quite a bit.
oh, there's a list, yeah.
Yes.
These things are typically requirements that would be on a project if it had its own environmental document anyway. So if nothing else, it's given us kind of a heads up as to what to expect on all these. So it's nothing specific to the master plan, but again, we hope to be able to use the master plan and the associated environmental document going forward, such that when we do one of these projects, we can look at well, we've already done the basic environmental review, and these are the things we have to incorporate in the project, so we don't need to do a whole lot of additional environmental work. They would be required anyway.
They would be required of the developer? I'm saying that
well,
thinking yes.
To the extent the developer may build some of these projects, yes. Yes. Do you want to add any comment on that?
It's part of the Air District's charge to implement AB 32, the greenhouse gas reduction plan, that sort of thing. This is all part of the construction fleet vehicle emission reduction. And it does seem to be working. I mean, we are getting closer and closer to attainment and meeting our goals. So.
Well, I sit on that board, and I'm just trying to find out if, as a member of that board, if our enforcement is reasonable, you know, from a practical point of view, or are there areas that maybe we could look at? That's kind of input I was hoping to get from you.
Yeah, I think the Air District staff does a really good quick turnaround when the developer submits or the city submits our vehicle list. They do all the inspections, they do any enforcement that's required.
And we pay a fee, or the developer pays a fee for all those inspections and things?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah, only if there's a construction mitigation fee if they can't reduce below the significance level. Then they do pay a fee, but that's used for other things like replacing lawnmowers and vehicles and that sort of thing. But I don't believe that the developers or the city pay a fee for that service.
Okay.
The other thing is, to the extent these kind of requirements are standard throughout the Air District, all the contractors are going to be, the big ones anyway, are going to be tuned into doing this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's not free, but it's not maybe as costly as you might think it would be to have to meet it specifically on every, on a particular little project.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions?
Actually, there was one other point that I wanted. I kind of went through this pretty quickly, and just to hate taking more time of your time, but in addition on the fee programs, there are other potentials where you talk about zone fees. There's some implications to that we should be considered, and I did have one extra slide I wanted to point out. This is a detail of the area north of Twin Cities Road that's in the general plan. And this happens to be drainage, but the water and sewer systems look a lot alike in that there's really very little connection or use of facilities south of Twin Cities Road. From a drainage standpoint, this is a standalone deal. And it might make sense to look at just having a separate fee or even a district for doing a, when development starts here, assuming it does, then that maybe a standalone type thing. Wastewater, everything just drains across the highway, goes to the wastewater plant. Again, no use of anything within the city in terms of existing infrastructure other than the plant itself. As I mentioned, the plant's not part of this analysis. Water does rely on some connections down here, but mainly to complete looping and provide reliability. They're showing a well up there and freeway crossings and so forth. So, again, something to keep in mind that may make it more feasible to to look at that, and whether you want to have the consultant do alternatives for you, or just do it more at the working level ahead of time, or, those are things to work out. But just wanted to point out that, rather than just, you don't want to just take these master plans and give them to a fee consultant, say, go crank me out a fee.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. You want to read? That was a lot of information.
Really?
Yeah.
Really.
I can start reading.
You want to read the recommended action on this?
Adopt a resolution approving the CEQA mitigated negative declaration for the utility master plan as amended by the responses to comments and errata sheet, and further approving the mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the project, and adopting the City of Galt wastewater collection, water distribution, and storm drainage systems master plan.
Okay, you've heard the recommended action. Is there a motion to that effect?
Move to accept.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second that.
A first and second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Powers? Aye. Councilmember Singleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton?
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Mayor Payne?
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Ready to go to the next item.
Next item, I'm going to check that up. Next item, under Public Works, authorize the city manager to execute contract amendment number 1 to the agreement with CDM Smith Incorporated for engineering services for the railroad crossing safety and quiet zone study in the amount of $1,425, and execute a contract with CDM Smith Incorporated for the quiet zone implementation in the amount of $39,980, and approve project contingency of $5,000.
Richard, you're on.
Thank you. This is my night. Madam Mayor, members of the council, you have previously approved the concept plan for the quiet zone and directed staff to move forward on the project. We are utilizing block grant funding on this. We have money to do the design. We don't have money for construction yet, but we anticipate getting that in future block grant allocations. So we wanted to get this moving along. The design of the project is really pretty simple. If you recall some of the measures, little medians in a roadway, some striping changes and things and signage and so forth, we really feel we can handle that in-house, but the process is one that we're concerned about. We've never done it, and we sought proposals from consultants to help us with the process, working through the railroad, doing the calculations on the quiet zone calculator that have to be updated, and that sort of thing, and we didn't get any responses. So we twisted CDM Smith's arm. They've changed names, by the way, since the last. They were Wilbur Smith, and now they got gobbled up, I guess, by somebody bigger. So we twisted their arms and said, look, you can't just leave us in the middle of this project. So they came back with a scope of work to help us out on doing that processing. And as part of all that discussion, they did point out that, they went way over on the original work. They did a lot more alternatives analysis than what we had called for. We negotiated with them on that, and that was where the extra $1,400 came from, a separate item that the clerk read off. They had asked for much more. We did manage to, we kind of basically split the difference on the two. So that's what we're asking for as approval tonight, is to help us with getting this project designed and built.
Okay. Any questions? Comment? Ready to move forward?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I already know what's going to happen, but I've not supported this from day one. I still believe, and no one will ever convince me different, like you guys agree on the other side. Those whistles are needed for a reason. That's for safety. So I'm not going to support this. I don't need to say any more. I've said my piece many times in the last however many years we've been discussing this.
And we always appreciate your comments.
Okay.
Respect you tremendously.
I'm not going to get upset.
Appreciate that. Any other comments regarding this? Okay, I would entertain a motion. you want to read the recommended action?
I will.
Okay.
Adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to, number one, execute amendment number one to the agreement for consulting services with CDM Smith in the amount of $1,425 for the railroad crossing safety and quiet zone study. Number two, to execute a new contract with CDM Smith for the quiet zone implementation in the amount of $39,980. And number three, authorizing a contingency of $5,000 for the quiet zone implementation.
Okay, that is the recommended action. Is there a motion to that effect? Or are there any other questions?
Questions? Move to accept.
We have a motion to accept. Is there a second? I will second that motion then. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Powers.
Can I say something before I do my, you know, I'm going to reluctantly say this because, I'm going to say yes because we are through with it, but I did take to heart a lot that, Councilmember Sheldon said, and I find myself agreeing with him on some points. So,
Okay, Councilmember Singleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton.
No.
Councilmember,
No.
Councilmember Cruz.
That was definite. Aye.
Mayor Payne.
Aye. Motion passed with 1 nay. Okay, next item, please. And thank you very much for that report.
Communications.
I don't have any.
Okay, the next item would be the city clerk's report. That's me. The League of California Cities Annual Conference, designation of voting delegate. And this year the conference, I bring this to you every year, this year the conference is September 5th through the 7th in San Diego. An important part of the conference is the business meeting, which this year will be held on Friday, September 7th at noon. At this time, I would ask council to designate a voting delegate as well as an alternate for the conference.
I nominate Mark, who did such a great job last year.
I'm fine
I'll
with
take
that.
the heat.
But we also need an alternate. Who else is going?
Everyone.
Are we all going?
We're not.
Is there someone else that would like to be an alternate? Now, you have to stay over a little bit later, right? Did you just, yeah.
Stay a little bit later.
Because that happens after the conference is.
The conference, I believe, ends at noon on Friday, and then the business meeting starts at noon.
It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours after everybody else is left.
Okay,
I'll volunteer because I'm spending the weekend anyway, so.
okay, all right.
Leave it
Is there
early.
consensus for Councilmember Cruz to be the delegate and Councilmember Vice Mayor Powers to be the alternate?
Works for me.
Everyone says yes?
Sounds okay, wonderful.
Okay.
So,
And I have a couple of reminders
okay,
before I give up my podium. A reminder on what initially the mayor was talking about. Our commuter bus ribbon cutting will be tomorrow, starting at 5:15 here at City Hall, kind of right outside my back office door, where the bus area is. The bus stop. Okay, thank you. And so we'd love to see everybody come out. You get to tour the bus, and we'll have refreshments. On May 17th, there will be a beautification committee meeting at 3:30 in the City Hall Community Room. On May 21st, the Public Safety Committee bi-monthly meeting will be at 6 p.m. in the Police Community Room, and there'll also be the Public Safety Forum that evening. On May 22nd, we will have a joint City Council Planning Commission meeting on the housing element at 6:30 here in the council chambers. On May 24th, there's a Commission on Aging meeting at 5:15 at the Parks and Rec California Room. On May 29th, we will have a budget study session here in the council chambers at 6:30. That takes us to June 4th, the Galt Youth Committee meeting, 6 p.m. in the council chambers, and that brings us to our next council meeting. A lot going on.
comments by staff?
Just wanted to make a comment on the budget. We've been working very diligently over the last several months to put the proposed recommended budget together for the council consideration. We have the workshop on the 29th. I did want to recognize all staff, particularly our finance department, for all the work they did in coordinating that effort. A lot of late nights and weekends and everything else. Public works staff, every department put in a lot of time in doing that. And you know, the budget challenges that everybody's facing makes budgeting more difficult in these times, but everybody really pulled together and did a great job. So that document's been distributed to council for review. If it's not already on the website, it will be on the website shortly, so members of the public can take a look at it, and then we'll be presenting it on the 29th for input, and then we'll come back in June to adopt. So that's the plan.
Okay. Any other comments from staff? Chief Bowen?
We had our bicycle rodeo, which
Yes,
was
we
Saturday.
did.
I think it was very successful. We figured out with the number of bicycle licenses that we placed on bicycles and what have you, that we had roughly about 150 kids that showed up. They enjoyed the hot dogs, the rodeo, and we really enjoyed ourselves, and hopefully next year will even be big and better.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from staff? If not, I'll move to comments by council members. Vice Mayor.
I'm sorry I have done this week, having been out of town for a couple of weeks. I am sorry I missed the bike rodeo, though.
We had a bicycle ready for you.
Not really. And I'll have to rethink that one.
Thank you. And we did miss you. Councilman
Yeah.
Singleton.
We always miss you. Just have a good weekend. Strawberry Festival this weekend. Come and join us at the Hot Rod and Bike Show on Saturday. We've got Early Dawn, or Whiskey Dawn playing on Saturday night, 5 o'clock.
Very good. Councilman Shelton.
Hope everyone has a great weekend. I think the Relay for Life is this coming weekend too? Okay. There's several things to do in the community. And the Strawberry Festival.
Yep. Councilman Cruz.
Same thing, come on out to the Strawberry Festival. The opening ceremonies are planned to be very exciting for all, so come out, have some fun, eat strawberries.
Before I get into mine, we have a distinguished guest that I would like to say welcome. Councilwoman Sherman from Elk Grove is here, and we're always glad to have you, and maybe you could give our Public Works Director some advice on the quiet zone. They do work. Thank you. Thank you very much. Glad to have you here, in here to say that.
See Randy's lip curling up over there.
No, no.
You could talk till doomsday. You're not going to convince them.
And so I would also like to say the bike rodeo was a big success. Once again, we showed off our luxurious commuter bus. We had quite a few people that went through it, tried out the reclining seats, and admired our own Galt bird painted on the sign. Especially like the wording where it said Galt, Sacramento. I like for Galt to be first. So it is our bus, absolutely. So that was very successful. And I do want to take a moment to thank Armando, who let the chief cook the hot dogs. There's almost got into a fight over, do we want them black or do we want them, but they got along. But also the police officers that came out on their own time and met with our young people, and I think they made a real impression on the fact that our policemen are good guys. And so in that way too, I thought it was very successful. I appreciated Consumnes Fire District. They were there participating, and there were others as well. We had 4 kids go home with brand new bicycles, and that was also rewarding. In addition to that, I would like to say that the city manager and I continue to visit some of our larger businesses and let them know that we think Galt is a business-friendly community. And it was also good to learn the history and a little bit about each business, so that was good. Not only do we have the Strawberry Festival coming up this weekend, but the following weekend will be the Sacramento County Fair. The city of Galt will proudly have a booth there bragging about all the things we have. And then, of course, we'll have our Memorial Day services out at our cemetery and I would invite you all to come out to that. It's very, very touching, very moving. So, if there is no other business, I will declare the meeting over at 8:45.